Revealed, 9 sinister encounters with haunted feral people in Appalachia, terrifying true tales. Sarah's heart raced as she stood in front of the dilapidated farmhouse that would become her new home. It loomed behind twisted branches and shadowy undergrowth, like a forgotten nightmare that had somehow come to life. The very air felt heavier, as if it were woven with the cries of the past. Her children, Ben and Lily, darted eagerly toward the vast backyard, blissfully unaware of the chill that crawled over Sarah's skin. Just as the cicadas began their rhythmic drone, murmurs crept in through the leaves, unsettling whispers swirling like a warning she couldn't quite decipher. The neighbors, with their warm yet vacant smiles, seemed friendly enough, but there was something in their eyes, a glint that chilled her blood. "You'll get used to it," one elder had said, smile stretching like plastic over wrinkled skin. "Just be careful near the woods. They may not take kindly to outsiders." Her thoughts tangled with the day's fears, but as she focused on unpacking and building a new life, those warnings faded like echoes. But by night, the house groaned, its creaks and moans transforming into haunting melodies as darkness fell. The comforting sounds of nature shifted. The cicada's song now felt like a dirge, hushing all normality. While Ben and Lily giggled in the distance, Sarah's skin crawled with an instinctual dread. She caught gusts of distant laughter that seemed almost human, yet not. Every passing shadow felt deliberate, as if something observed them with primal hunger. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One dreary afternoon, Ben wandered too close to the woods, drawn by something. Frantic, Sarah called out as the shadows deepened. "Ben! Come back!" Panic seized her heart as silence answered. His laughter that had warmed her soul was swallowed by the greedy woods. She stumbled, desperately searching the edge of the darkening forest, bewildered by snatches of ancient marks she dismissed now etched ominously into the dirt. They were symbols, a language of a time long forgotten, warning of danger wrapped in myth. As twilight bled into the night, the oppressive air thickened. She saw movement beyond the trees. Flickering shapes crossed the dim light, too swift to pinpoint. The neighbors' resigned whispers echoed through her mind, tales of feral families exiled into madness, lurking in the embrace of despair and branches. Hexed conversations lingered at doorways when neighbors dropped by, each visit dripping with something sinister. Was any of it real? Her instincts screamed, but no one seemed truly alarmed. At dusk, as the last rays vanished, despair clawed at her heart. Alone, she stood teetering on a precipice, realizing the hold this place had over her and the momentum of something vile crashing at her heels. The laughter burst again from the woodlands, a shriek of frantic glee mingling with her terror. What had she awoken? She could feel time slipping, the essence of danger threading its way through her sanctuary. In the darkness, confusion whirled and the chilling question lingered like a heavy fog: who exactly had welcomed them into their community, and at what price? The night deepened, wrapping the world in an ink-black shroud that seemed to suck the warmth from the air. Each creak of the old farmhouse made Sarah jump, her heart pounding in her chest like a wild bird desperate to escape. Shadows danced along the walls, cast by the feeble light of a lone lamp, and as she glanced out the window, the forest loomed like a dark sentinel, keeping its secrets close. "Mom!" Lily's voice cut through the thick silence, high-pitched and trembling. Sarah turned quickly, her maternal instincts kicking in. "What is it, honey?" Lily stood at the foot of the stairs, her wide eyes reflecting pure terror. I can feel them. They're watching us." A cold shiver snaked down Sarah's spine. "Who? The neighbors?" "No. The people in the woods. They want Ben." Sarah's stomach twisted. He's just playing out back, sweetheart. It's fine, I promise. Yet, as she spoke, doubt crept into her mind. Had Ben really strayed that far? An echo of laughter tickled her ear, childlike yet haunting, and it took all her willpower not to flinch. Stay here. I'll go check on him. She stepped into the backyard, the door creaking loudly as if protesting against her departure into the night. The chirping of the cicadas had transformed into a symphony of sinister whispers. Anxiety rippled through her as she squinted into the darkness of the woods. Ben! She shouted, but her voice felt small against the vastness of the night. No reply came. Silence settled over the yard like a thick fog. Panic squeezed Sarah's heart. She was about to call again when something shifted in the shadows. Just at the edge of the wood, a figure noble yet feral moved with the grace of a wild animal. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't distinguish features, but there was something deeply unsettling about the way it stood, half concealed by the underbrush, its gaze fixated on her. Ben! Come here! She cried again, desperation fueling each syllable. Then out of the darkness, a familiar voice rang out, but it didn't belong to her son. Mom! You should see this. It was accompanied by a laugh that sounded nothing like Ben's. This one was a distorted echo of joy, twisted and unnatural. Ben! Her heart raced as she dashed toward the sound, driven by fear. Each step took her further from the safety of the light, deeper into the abyss of trees. Mom! In here! The voice called again, but this time, a chill settled in her bones. She stumbled into a small clearing, a pale light illuminating the ground. But it was not the moon. The ground was littered with remnants, broken toys, scraps of fabric, echoes of lost youth. And there, crouching in the center, was Ben. But his expression wasn't filled with triumph or fun. No, it was devoid of emotion, eyes wide, fixated on figures creeping from the shadows, blending seamlessly with the darkness. They were tall, gaunt, their limb movements jerky and unnatural. Ben! Sarah screamed, her voice splintering under the weight of dread. She rushed forward, but something stopped her. A gut-wrenching growl emanated from the forest. It vibrated through her, freezing her in place. Without another moment's hesitation, she yanked Ben away, backing slowly, her eyes darting to the once invisible figures creeping forward. Panic surged through her veins. They were drawn to them, hungry eyes gleaming in the fractured light. As they slipped back toward the farmhouse, Sarah felt the woods close in behind them, shadows intertwining like spider webs. The whispers grew louder, an avalanche of sound that crashed over her, pulling her into despair. Once inside, Sarah bolted the door, its weight heavy with finality. She turned slowly to face Ben, who remained still, staring blankly ahead. What were they? She whispered, trembling, but Ben didn't respond, his gaze locked onto the window, where dark figures loomed. Near, yet far. They told me to come play. Understanding gripped her, horror squeezing its way into her chest. What had she stepped into? In the faint light, the whispers returned closer, more insistent. The house itself felt alive, as if it drew breath. Anticipating the terror it had so easily summoned, yet, one thought burned brightly amid her fear: what would happen when the sun rose? What would be left of them? The night was far from over, and beneath the surface, something lay waiting. The air inside the farmhouse felt thick, pregnant with dread. Shadows thickened, coiling around Sarah like a snake, whispering secrets that echoed just outside her grasp. She could hardly breathe, and each moment stretched, drawing out her fears until they were palpable. Ben remained silent. His gaze didn't waver from the window, his breath slow and steady, almost too calm for the terror that had engulfed them. Ben, please, she urged again, desperation bubbling to the surface. What did they want? They wanted to play with me, he murmured, his voice oddly detached. Her stomach twisted like a vice. Play? Play with what, sweetie? Sarah's voice cracked, carrying the weight of mounting panic. The whispers outside intensified, forming a cacophony of mocking laughter that sliced through the tension, sending chills racing down her spine. Not knowing what else to do, she moved to the window, ready to pull the curtains shut, to block out the malevolence lurking beyond. But as she glanced outside, her heart stopped cold. The figures had multiplied. Their elongated shadows danced under the pale glow of moonlight, grotesque movements matching the sinister melody just beyond the glass. Those eyes. They glimmered like shards of glass, reflecting a hunger that made her muscles tighten in fear. Sarah, the croak of Ben's voice pulled her back. They want you too. They want you. Sarah corrected, her resolve faltering. A sickening dread filled her lungs. We have to leave. Now. As she turned to grab Ben's hand, he simply stood there, unyielding. The chanting laughter grew louder, echoing in the depth of her mind. Ben! She cried, shaking him gently. We have to go. We have to get out of here. The shadows slithered closer, invading the edges of the light that flickered from the lamp. The walls felt alive, vibrating with the poisonous energy of the figures outside. It's too late, Mom, Ben said, his voice eerily calm. They're already inside. Fear gripped her heart as she glanced around, the sense of being watched intensifying. The walls themselves seemed to breathe, pulsating with the sinister rhythm of the night, as if they were alive and complicit in whatever dark design lay in wait. Focus, Ben. Look at me. She was almost shouting now, panic clawing at her throat. We can't let them take you. But as she met his gaze, something shifted. In Ben's eyes, she no longer saw the innocent boy she loved. Instead, a darkness seemed to settle there, swirling like storm clouds, a chilling calmness that sent her reeling. Join us, Sarah, came a whisper, soft and insidious, threading through the room like smoke. It wasn't just the mutterings of the shadows. It felt personal, like a voice woven into the fabric of her own mind. No. She shook her head violently, backing away as the whispers morphed into a chorus, chanting her name, coaxing her into the darkness. With a surge of instinct, Sarah rushed toward the door, feeling the cold, unyielding presence of the shadows wrapping around her like chains. She screamed, "Get back!" and swung the door open, only to be met by a wall of night. Outside, the shadows merged into one chaotic mass, stretching toward her in grotesque forms. With no other choice, she yanked Ben along and bolted into the night, abandoning the false safety of the farmhouse. The whispers chased them, a lament of lost souls, urging them deeper into the treacherous woods where the hungry figures awaited. We want to let you go. They cried, their voices a chilling reminder that the night itself hungered for them, but what would become of them if they ventured into the dark? The trees loomed overhead, towering sentinels of fate. What lay beyond the clearing? With her heart racing, Sarah led Ben into the forest, praying to find a path that would lead them away from the horrors that lingered behind. As they wove between the colossal trunks, the shadows danced, taunting them, a reminder that escape was not as simple as running. For as they forged ahead, Sarah realized with a sinking dread that the forest wasn't just a backdrop to their terror, it was a living entity, and it would not easily let them go. As the whispers faded into an eerie stillness, only one thought burned in her mind: could they survive the night? Or would the darkness claim them both, forever lost to the whispers that called them deeper into the abyss? In that moment, the oppressive weight of the night sank around them, a heavy shroud thick with impending doom, leaving a question that loomed darkly: what awaited them at the heart of the forest? The woods swallowed them whole, branches clawing at Sarah's arms and legs as they stumbled deeper into the dark. Each snap of a twig beneath their feet echoed like a gunshot, slicing through the oppressive silence. Ben clung to her side, his small hand trembling in hers. She could feel his heartbeat thrum against her palm, a wild rhythm that matched her own racing pulse. "Mom," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. She looked down at him, her heart sinking further. The innocence in his eyes was gone, replaced by something unreadable. What if they catch us? She hushed him, forcing a smile that felt hollow. We'll be fine. Just keep moving. But the words tasted like ash in her mouth. A shiver ran down her spine as the shadows around them twisted and shifted, almost like they were aware of their panic. The whispers returned, low and seductive, wrapping around them like cold fingers. You can't escape, they crooned, echoing the sinister laughter that had haunted them. You belong with us. Sarah fought back a wave of nausea. Not now. She hissed, tightening her grip on Ben. We have to keep going. But the more they ran, the more the forest closed in around them. The moonlight barely penetrated the thick canopy, casting an otherworldly gloom that felt alive. The trees seemed to lean in, listening, watching, waiting. It was suffocating. Ahead, a flicker of light teased their vision, an almost impossibly warm glow cutting through the darkness. Hope sparked inside her, urging her to push forward. There! She exclaimed, pulling Ben along as they raced toward it. As they approached, the light coalesced into a clearing, revealing a small fire crackling at its center. The sight filled her with a fragile sense of safety. But as they stepped into the clearing, the firelight flickered ominously, revealing the twisted faces of figures lurking in the shadows. They moved with animalistic grace, their eyes glowing with that same insatiable hunger. Oh no, Ben gasped, his voice breaking as he clutched her tighter. Stay close. Sarah barked, stepping protectively in front of him. But the figures began to emerge, their forms grotesque, almost human yet disturbingly wrong. They seemed to shift in and out of focus, as though they were not quite real. The whispers crescendoed, drowning out her thoughts. Join us, they sang, voices dripping with longing. You won't find safety here, child. Only family. A circle formed around them, the creatures inching closer, their breath hot and fetid. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to run, but her legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot. What were these beings? They looked like people, but there was an absence of humanity, replaced with a primal hunger that sent chills racing down her spine. Mom, Ben whimpered, his voice trembling. What do we do? Sarah's heart dropped. She couldn't think. The fire sputtered, casting grotesque shadows that danced around them like spirits. Her eyes scanned the perimeter, looking for an escape. We'll fight. She shouted, adrenaline surging through her blood. But the ground beneath her seemed to shift, like it had a pulse. The whispers rose again, more insistent, as the figures lunged forward, their faces contorting into mockeries of joy. You can't leave us. We need you. In that moment, time slowed. The forest darkened further, a void threatening to consume them. Hold on to me. She urged Ben, gripping his hand tightly as panic surged. Just as she prepared to dash for safety, she felt a sharp pull from behind, an icy grasp on her shoulder. She turned to see a claw-like hand reaching. It wasn't just darkness anymore, it was real, and it was hungry. Sarah, it wasn't the shadows speaking now. It was Ben's voice, but laced with something else. Something cold. A realization hit her like a punch. Whatever was surrounding them wasn't just a monster, it had reached into Ben's mind, infecting him with its wickedness. The shadow that loomed behind him flickered, an amalgamation of Ben and the darkness, whispering her name. Ben, fight it. She urged, her heart racing, as the world spun in dizzying terror. The molten glow of the fire flickered again, casting sharp shadows that surrounded them all. What remained of her was breaking apart. Would she lose him to the shadows, or could they escape together? In the haze of fear, Sarah's voice trembled. What do you want from us? The shadow flickered closer, a cruel smile painted across its faceless visage. Everything it breathed. As they were pulled deeper into a web of past sins and present horrors, Sarah could feel the very essence of the forest tightening around them like a noose. And then, with an earth-shattering roar that shook the ground, the darkness surged forward, threatening to swallow them whole. What waited beyond the threshold of oblivion? Would it be salvation or something far worse? The cold grip on Sarah's shoulder tightened, a sickening jolt shooting through her spine. She spun, her heart drumming like a war beat in her ears, to face whatever malevolence had latched onto her. Ben's wide eyes flicked back and forth, searching for his mother, but the gleam from the fire danced with shadows, warping his features into something monstrous. "Ben!" she shouted, but her voice was lost in the wind. The grotesque figures closed in, their laughter twisting into a cacophony that wrecked her mind. Her grip on Ben slipped as the shadow wrapped its tendrils around him, dragging him away from her. "Mom!" he cried, the plea ripping through her resolve. Panic blazed behind her ribcage, threatening to drown her. She lunged for him, her feet barely making purchase against the shifting landscape of roots and earth. "I'm coming. Hold on." But the shadows were quicker. The forest around her twisted, shifting the clearing like a cruel joke. She caught glimpses of Ben's face, his expression fractured between fear and something darker, something that twisted in her gut like rot. "What do you want from us?" she screamed again, desperation fueling her words. The shadow snickered, pulling Ben closer, whispering nasty secrets directly into his ear. "You'll find out soon enough," it hissed, slithering around him like a snake. "Fight it, Ben," Sarah begged, her heart a leaden weight, dragging her down. She made a reckless dash but stumbled, the ground beneath her suddenly shifting again. Tangled roots clutched at her ankles, pulling her down and bringing her to eye level with the dirt and damp moss. The grotesque figures encircled her tightly now, their laughter morphing into a rhythmic chant of "Join us, join us." It became a sickening melody, one that resonated with the dark desires of the forest itself. She could feel the earth vibrate, awakening beneath her. It wanted to consume them, to pull them down into a deep, dark void. "Ben!" she screamed again, her voice trembling. The air around her felt oppressive, thick with sorrow and malevolence. "You're stronger than this." Suddenly, she witnessed something horrifying. A flicker of recognition crossed Ben's face, a fleeting moment as he fought against the influence. The shadow's hold faltered, and in that instant, it wanted to poison his mind even more. "Come to us, little one. We can keep you safe." "No!" Sarah shouted, lunging toward him again, desperation fueling her flight. "I love you, Ben. Remember me." Her words broke through the haze. She could see it in his eyes, the slight flicker of warmth beneath the cold touch of shadow. But then, within the darkness, figures began to emerge, a swirl of faces, distorted yet achingly familiar. "Mommy!" Ben's voice softened, confusion washing over him. "Why are you doing this?" The whispering grew louder, a web of deceit closing around them. "What if you belong with us forever?" The shadow-tainted voice cooed from behind, its breath cold as ice. "What if we showed you true love?" "Stay away from him." She yanked Ben from the shadow's grasp, but instead of relief, dread flooded her as he flinched at her touch. She looked around, frantically seeking a way out, a way to break the curse. The fire sputtered and hissed, the warmth fading away as the darkness thickened. Desperation surged within her, tearing at her sanity. "What is this place? What do you want from us?" The darkness surged over her, tasting her fear. "To join us. It's beautiful here, much better than the world you know." With seconds slipping away, Sarah grasped something near her, something hard and jagged. It felt like hope. "If I have to burn it all down," she spat, pulling her arm back, ready to strike, but just before she could unleash her wrath, the ground trembled violently, splitting the earth in two, a maw of shadows threatening to swallow them all. Sarah felt the floor drop, yet she clung desperately to Ben, who trembled in her grip. "Mom!" he gasped, looking up at her with terror-stricken eyes. The figures leaned in closer, whispering feasts of dismemberment and horror, their voices mingling into a deafening chant. And as the shadow reached out to take Ben, a shocking revelation crystallized in Sarah's mind. This is what they want to separate us. The ground beneath her solidified for a moment, and the whispers stuttered. You'll lose him forever. Never. She roared, brandishing the makeshift weapon. Just as she struck, a tremendous force pushed against her, sending her sprawling backward. Darkness yawned wider, pulling Ben toward the abyss. The sound of his scream echoed in her ears, twisting with desperation as they began to slip away from each other. Trapped in the eternal dusk, Sarah screamed against the shadows. Ben! But what had she unleashed? Would she save him or lose him to the darkness forever? Each second felt like a heartbeat racing toward doom. As hopelessness threatened to devour her whole, a bright flash erupted from her weapon, illuminating the shadows with a promise of truth. But would it be enough to battle the insatiable hunger around them? What would she uncover in the depths of that wicked void? The blinding flash illuminated the clearing, casting harsh light on the writhing shadows. For a moment, the grotesque figures recoiled, their expressions twisted into surprise and rage. Sarah seized the opportunity, her heart pounding, a tide of hope surging through her veins. Ben! She called, her voice thick with urgency as she tried to cut through the haze of panic and despair. She was fighting against an almost tangible darkness, an oppressive force that licked at her heels. We're getting out of this together. But the shadows were not done. They surged back, darker and more furious. Laughter echoed, the chilling sound wrapping around her like barbed wire. You think you can resist us? One sneered, its face an impossible mockery of someone she used to know. Just give in. Another hissed, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. Ripples of fear washed through her, but the flame of determination burned brighter. She took a step forward, her weapon still glowing, its warmth a beacon against the void. Mom! Ben's voice broke through the chaos, trembling and frantic. She turned and locked eyes with him, a connection that pierced the suffocating gloom. I'm scared. I know. She shouted back. But you have to fight, baby. You're stronger than them. The shadows coiled closer, eager to snuff out her light, but Sarah faced them unyieldingly. She swung the jagged weapon, creating a barrier of light that pushed against the consuming dark. Something shifted. Beneath the shadows, she could sense the earth beginning to tremble again, a pulsating heartbeat that mimicked the rising dread within her. The very ground seemed to moan, alive with malice, and she knew it wouldn't be long before this was all swallowed whole. Let him go. With a fierce scream, she thrust her weapon towards the darkness, and it erupted in a blaze of light, blinding her for an instant. She could barely see. The shadows shrieked, retreating momentarily like animals inching away from a sudden blaze. Ben! She rasped, pushing through the disorienting glare. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribs, nearly drowning out the noise around her. She had to reach him. She wouldn't let them take him. Quick, Mom! He was still there, still fighting, but his voice wavered. She could hear the whispers behind him, taunting him, promising him a release from fear. They're saying I can be happy with them. No. She howled, urgency clawing at her. You'll never be happy there. It's a lie. The shadows swirled tightly around Ben, but for a flickering moment, her words broke through the sinister chant. His eyes widened with confusion, fear clawing at his innocence. She took a step closer, feeling the heat of her weapon, the strange power it held suffusing her with unrelenting courage, but the darkness wouldn't allow her triumph easily. It surged, knocking her off balance, a wave of icy despair washing over her. A massive entity emerged, larger and more grotesque than she'd seen before, its sludge-like body churning with echoes of lost souls. Join us! It bellowed, its voice resonating in her bones. You belong in the void. Sarah felt a horrifying truth unspool inside her. It wanted not just Ben, but her too. It craved her fear. With every ounce of willpower, she forced her fear back, each breath a rebellion. We will not join you. In that moment, a pulse of light exploded from the weapon, brighter than before. Tendrils of darkness hissed, retreating from its radiant glow. But how long could this stand? The shadows seemed to realize what was at stake, their whispers turning frantic, pleading, desperate. Then a shriek erupted from Ben, a mix of pain and rage, as the grotesque forms closed back in. "Help me, Mom. I can't hold on." "No!" Sarah screamed, lunging forward. "I'm coming." But just as she reached for him, the ground bucked violently, jagged cracks tearing through the earth, threatening to swallow them both into its abyss. Would this fleeting light close the gap, or would it bind them further into the eternal darkness? As the world around them began to collapse, a terrifying thought crossed her mind. If she failed, they might forever slip into the darkness, lost and alone. In desperation, she gripped the weapon tighter, knowing one final push was all she had left. But would it be enough? Would they break free, or would the shadows finally claim what they desired? Before she could find out, the ground beneath her feet shuddered violently. The cries of Ben faded into the chaos as Sarah plummeted deeper into a chasm of dread. What would she discover in this descent? And could she still save her child? The darkness swallowed Sarah whole, and she fell through a void that felt both endless and suffocating. There were no walls, no ground, only a swirling mass of shadows that clawed at her mind. She gasped, the icy tendrils of fear wrapping tighter around her heart, squeezing until her breath came in short, sharp bursts. The sensation of falling was dizzying, disorienting. She closed her eyes, fighting the urge to scream. Ben. The name tore from her lips like a desperate prayer. Each syllable hung heavy in the void, swallowed by silence. A flicker of light danced at the edge of her mind, a memory of hope, but the shadows snickered, wrapping around it, obliterating its flicker. Then, in the overwhelming dark, a voice cut through. Not just any voice. "Ben's, help me, Mom, Ben." She cried again, the echoes of despair bouncing back like mocking laughter. Was this a trick? Or could he actually be nearby? Overwhelmed, she thrust her arms out, trying to grab onto something, anything. The void twisted around her, but beneath that chaos, she felt an echo, a heartbeat. A pulse that resonated with her own. Her instincts kicked in. She swam through the darkness, pushing against the cold despair. She had to find him. Had to reach him, and then she saw it, the light. It wasn't bright or warm, but it was there, shimmering with the energy of the lost. She surged toward it, the shadows howling behind her, trying to drag her back. "You can't escape," they wailed. "You're one of us now." "No." She spat, feeling the familiar warmth of fear rise up again. "I will not be yours." The light was growing closer. It pulsed, flickering, almost alive. And with it, she could hear Ben's voice again, clearer this time. "Mom, please hang on. I'm coming." She clawed her way forward, the light just within reach. With one final push, she shot herself out of the darkness, bursting through into a world that felt like a battlefield. She hit the ground hard, not in the abyss she expected, but in a clearing filled with twisted trees and an eerie silence. The ground was cracked, like a spiderweb of despair. She staggered to her feet, drenched in sweat. The oppressive weight of the shadows still lingered, curling at the edges of her vision. "Ben!" Panic thrashed through her as she spun around, breathing heavily. The clearing felt wrong, alive, but wrong. Shadows darted between the trees, whispering dark secrets she couldn't decipher. "Mom!" His voice. Barely a whisper, cut off by a sudden hush in the air. "Help, where are you?" she cried, fear churning with frustration. The shadows danced closer, their twisted forms sneering. They knew where he was. They were toying with her. "Join us," they hissed, inching closer. "He's ours. Forever." Sarah's heart raced, terror threatening to take hold. "No. Not my son." She clutched her weapon, its glow faltering. Mom! Ben's cry rose in desperation, echoing in the silence. I can't hold on much longer. No, the weight of impending loss crashed over her. A breathing darkness closed in, tightening around her throat. Despair was pulling her down again. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think, but just then, she spotted a narrow path weaving through the trees, leading to a darker area beyond. The shadows hesitated, flickering like a candle near a storm. With a surge of wild determination, she forced herself forward, stepping onto the trail. Ben! She shouted, her echo mingling with the shadows' frantic whispers. I'm coming. But would she arrive in time? Would that path lead to salvation or doom? What awaited her at the end of that darkness? A rustling noise echoed from the depths of the shadows, sending a chill through her veins. Before she could react, a figure loomed, its eyes glowing with hunger. Welcome, Sarah, it crooned, voice slithering like a whisper through her mind. Who are you? She demanded, shaking back the fear. I am the keeper of this realm and you've entered my domain. With every breath, the weight of despair pushed down upon her, and the shadows surged anew. Was this creature the key to saving Ben, or was she walking deeper into the darkness? What choice was there left to make? The shadows pulsed and vibrated with an unsettling energy, as if mirroring Sarah's racing heart. She took a step back, the ground feeling more unstable beneath her feet. The figure before her was tall and gaunt, its features obscured by a cascade of shadow. It loomed closer, a devilish grin splitting its face, revealing teeth that were distended and jagged, like shards of glass. You came searching for him, the creature hissed, each word dripping with malice. But you might find what you're looking for is not what you hoped. Where is Ben? She demanded, voice shaky but resolute. Panic darkened the edges of her words, rough and ragged like torn paper. Ah, Ben, the keeper purred, curling its fingers around empty air as if to caress a phantom. He is close. But he has already made a choice just like you will. A chill coursed through her veins, wrapping around her like icy chains. What do you mean? The question escaped her lips, laced with dread. In the depths of her mind, a flicker of her earlier dream warned her this was no game. Every soul that wanders here must choose. Join the shadows, or suffer. Eternal torment awaits those who resist. It tilted its head, and its eyes glinted with excitement, as if it reveled in the pain it could inflict. Ben would never choose that. She shot back defiantly, heat rising despite the cold fear gnawing at her heart. I refuse to believe it. The creature laughed, a sinister sound that seemed to echo off the twisted trees. Was it his hope that drew you here? Or the shackles of despair? The shadows pulsed around her, feeding off the tension. In that moment, an agonizing reality twisted in her gut. What if Ben had already succumbed? The idea sank into her like poison, turning her blood to ice. She could feel the weight of countless eyes bearing down on her, their hunger palpable. Do you wish to see him? The keeper's voice dripped with sickening sweetness. Not every answer comes without sacrifice. Show me. Sarah gasped, her adrenaline surging and pushing her forward. I'll do whatever it takes. Very well. The keeper stepped back into the shadows, drawing them around itself like a cloak. Follow me, if you dare. Before she could think twice, the ground trembled, and the darkened path unfurled before her. She felt an unseen force tugging at her, urging her onward. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, but she fought it down. The desire to save Ben blazed bright and reckless. As she moved deeper into the shadows, the trees twisted and contorted around her like gnarled hands. Whispers flickered through the air, cacophonous and maddening, snippets of 1,000 lost souls, each one crying out for release. Tendrils of darkness coiled around her legs, tugging gently, as if the very ground was alive, a living nightmare seeking to pull her under. Ben! She shouted, voice echoing back in the haunting silence. Please, answer me. A flicker of light danced on the periphery of her vision again. She turned toward it, her heart racing, each beat echoing the voices of despair. But the shadows pulsed at her back, reminding her she wasn't alone. Then she saw him, a figure, small and lost, tangled in the reach of the shadows. Mom Ben. Desperation fueled her feet as she ran toward him, but the shadows surged against her, shifting to block her path, their laughter growing louder, more insistent. "You must remember," the keeper called from the depths, its voice slithering through her own thoughts. "You're not just fighting for him. You're fighting for your own soul." Panic mixed with determination as she pushed forward, feeling the confines of darkness squeeze tighter. Was this all a trap? Was she destined to join the shadows, her own screams lost with Ben-S? As the darkness coiled around her, the ground rippled, a horrifying vision struck her, her own face twisted in despair, her cries silent amidst the cacophony. "No!" she screamed, shaking with fear. "I will not lose him. I will not give in." But as Ben-S voice dimmed, drowning in the shadow-s laughter, Sarah felt herself teetering on the edge of hopelessness. Would she reach him in time, or would she also succumb to the seduction of despair? And as everything turned black once again, a deep, foreboding whisper lingered in the air. "The choice is yours, choose wisely." In the suffocating silence that followed, Sarah's heart raced. The path to Ben lay ahead, but so did the darkness, crawling and creeping ever closer, ready to swallow her whole. What did she truly have left to lose? The darkness enveloped her like a shroud, swallowing her cries, her last gasp for life. Her surroundings felt like a fever dream, blurry and cold, yet every whisper sang of an eerie clarity. Just ahead, a flicker of light pulsed, drawing her in with the warmth of a forgotten campfire. "Ben!" she shouted again, desperate. Each sound came back to her, twisted and warped. The shadowy tendrils recoiled as if surprised by her defiance. Where they had seemed omnipotent before, now they hesitated, momentarily retreating, but the reprieve was fleeting. The keeper's laughter echoed like a macabre symphony, mingling with the tumult of lost souls echoing through the trees. "You dare challenge the inevitable?" it taunted. "You forget this is not just a realm of shadows, but of your own sorrow." Ice gripped Sarah's heart. Images flooded her mind, Ben-S laughter, his little hands clutching hers. These memories wove around her, making her feel both full and empty. "I will not forget him," she cried. The light ahead flared brighter, a beacon of hope. She surged forward, heart pounding in rebellion against the consuming black. With every step, her fear morphed into rage, pushing her to confront the binding shadows. "I will save him." But then, the ground buckled beneath her, slick and treacherous. She stumbled, the air thick with dread. The shadows twisted, and terrible forms began to emerge, grotesque figures of anguish, contorting into the shapes of those who had despaired before her. They gnashed their jagged teeth, their eyes hollow yet full of sorrow. They knew her pain. "Join us, Sarah," they whispered, a haunting chorus that filled her ears, tugging at the fabric of her mind. "Embrace it. You can be free." "No!" she screamed, clutching her head as if to keep her thoughts intact. "I want to become one of you." Suddenly, a piercing shriek cut through the murmur, sharper than glass. Sarah froze as the shadows recoiled. "Mom! Please!" Ben-S voice seeped through the dark fog, carrying a tremor that sliced through her heart. "Ben!" she gasped, scrambling toward the light. "I'm coming." As she ran, she felt fingers brush her arms, cold and clammy. She flinched but pressed on, knowing his voice was real, tangible in a place where so much felt like a waking nightmare. With every ounce of her being, she fought against the paralyzing dread. The light shimmered closer, revealing a scene twisted beyond recognition. Ben sat at the center, bound in shadowy chains that scorched his small frame. "Mom," he whimpered, fear radiating from him like faint heat escaping a dying ember. The shadows constricted around him, whispering promises of endless night. "No!" She lunged, arms outstretched, but an unseen force slammed her back, pinning her against the gnarled bark of a rotting tree. You will not take him. The depth of her love fueled a determination she didn't know she possessed. You cannot save him, the keeper sneered, its form shifting, growing larger, more foreboding. Not when he has already chosen. Chosen? She echoed, panic snaking into her voice. Chosen what? Chuckles erupted from the shadows, swirling as if feeding on her confusion. This is a realm of choices, dear Sarah. Each soul holds the key to its own destiny. You just need to decide if you wish to join him. Suddenly, a gut-wrenching scream erupted from Ben, raw and filled with despair. Mom! Don't leave me! The keeper's voice slipped into her ear, oozing with satisfied hunger. You know the truth. If you save him, you lose yourself. With a heart fractured by choice, Sarah felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her shoulders. Every moment stretched thin, a taut string ready to snap. Could she bear the thought of losing herself? Could she abandon Ben to a fate worse than death? The dimensions of the world shimmered, the shadows pulsing, waiting for her answer. And behind the keeper's dark smile, Sarah saw something else, a flicker of fear. Time froze, a crucial crossroads lay before her. Would she surrender to the shadows or risk everything to save her son from the darkness meant to engulf them both? Choose wisely, dear. Sarah, the keeper purred, a grin wide enough to swallow the sun, and in that chilling heartbeat, Sarah's mind spun. Was it too late to choose hope over despair? As terror gripped her thoughts, a harrowing realization dawned. Whatever choice she made, nothing would ever be the same again. What would she ultimately sacrifice to save her son? The darkness swirled around Sarah, tendrils of shadow slithering through the air, whispering promises and threats that clawed at her heart. She felt the weight of despair pressing down on her, threatening to crush her will. But there, in the center of the darkness, was Ben, bound yet still fighting. Her determination surged anew, burning like a flame against the shadows. Mom! Ben cried, his voice trembling with fear, and something deep within her shattered. I'm here! She screamed, forcing herself against the invisible restraints that held her. I will not let them take you. The shadows danced menacingly, their laughter a mocking chorus that echoed through the air like an ominous warning. You cannot fight what is within, they taunted, their voices dripping with malice. He has already chosen. Just surrender. No. Sarah's roar cut through the suffocating gloom. You don't know my son. He is strong. He is a fighter just like me. With each word, she felt the pulsing energy of love crashing against the darkness, her spirit igniting like a wildfire in a parched forest. Bending her will against the shadows, she wrestled with the shadows swirling around her. I choose hope. She shouted, feeling the vibration slice through the fabric of the dark realm that held them. I choose love. Suddenly, the shadows paused, and the keeper's laughter faltered, revealing a flicker of surprise. Hope? Love? It sneered, but doubt laced its voice. Those are illusions. Do you think they can save you? Watch me, Sarah declared, her heart racing as she tapped into the core of her strength, drawing the jagged weapon close. She allowed its warmth to infuse her, an otherworldly glow reflecting against the darkness swarming her. You will not take my son. With a swift movement, she launched forward, the weapon casting a blinding light. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if burnt by the radiance. No! They howled, their voices tangling in the air like a frenzied wind. Ben! Hold on! Sarah urged, leaping towards the cruel chains that bound her son. She could see the fear in Ben's eyes, the desperation that twisted his brow. I'm coming. I love you. As she reached him, the keeper lashed out, its form shifting into a monstrous visage long and contorted. You will regret this. It bellowed, its voice rumbling like distant thunder. But fear no longer held her hostage, it fueled her resolve. Never. With one powerful swing, she brought the weapon down toward Ben's chains, and with a brilliant flash, the chains shattered, breaking apart like brittle glass. "Mom!" Ben cried, and in his gaze, she saw warmth replace the pallor of fear. "No time to be afraid, sweetheart. Follow me," she urged, intertwining her fingers with his. Together, they dashed through the chaos, the shadows writhing in fury around them. The forest trembled, trees creaking as despair thickened the air, yet the light of their bond pushed back against it. The keeper's voice raged, echoing all around, trying to invade their thoughts. "You cannot escape this realm. You made a choice, and it will be fulfilled." But Sarah felt the air shift, the energy of love pulsing alongside her heartbeat, a powerful force that defied the shadows. They stumbled into the heart of the forest, the oppressive weight of darkness trailing behind. But Sarah felt determination surge within their steps. They could do this. "We have to believe," she encouraged Ben, her voice wrapping around them like a protective shield. Against the cacophony of twisted laughter, she focused on the fleeting light ahead, an open space filled with shimmering grass and the silhouettes of trees lit by a euphoric glow. "The way out. We can reach it." With new strength, they dashed toward the light, the shadows clawing at their backs, desperate to reclaim what they felt belonged to them. But Sarah refused to yield. Their voices were a distant memory, consumed by the promise of regeneration and life beyond the dark. The moment they reached the golden glow, a flood of warmth enveloped them. Brightness cascaded over both of them, pushing back the shadows that lunged toward them. The haunting whispers faded to silence, and the dark realm unraveled, the keeper's cries dissolving into a formless echo. Breathless, Sarah pulled Ben close, collapsing onto the ground as sunlight broke through the trees above them. They were free. She could hear the distant call of birds, the gentle rustling of leaves. Life enveloped them once again. It was real. "Mom?" Ben's voice trembled, still vibrant with a twinge of fear. "Are we safe?" Sarah cupped his face, feeling the warmth of his skin against her palms. "Yes, love. We're safe." A profound relief washed over her, and in that moment, she relished in every aspect of his presence. "Promise me," he whispered, eyes wide with sincerity, "we won't go back there, right?" "Never," she vowed fiercely, hugging him tightly. "No matter what, I'll protect you. You're my everything." As they sat beneath the comforting canopy of the trees, sunlight pouring down, Sarah held onto her son, feeling the weight of burdens long shackled to her heart finally lift. The forest would not claim them. They had fought and emerged victorious. Their laughter erupted, dancing joyfully through the trees, weaving back into the tapestry of life. The past faded like a distant nightmare, and in its place was hope, a chance for renewal. Together, forever strong against the shadows that would never again consume them. But before they could leap into the future, an urgency filled her heart. "If they try to come again, we'll fight. We'll always fight," she declared, a promise to the whispers of the past. And together, mother and son strode into the bright embrace of a new dawn, cherishing the love and light that could never be shattered. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss these exclusive stories that keep your heart racing. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let everyone know how powerful this journey was. Flood the comments section right away with your reactions and theories about Sarah and Ben's incredible escape. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this mind-blowing conclusion. Every interaction counts, and only true fans like you understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.